I'm back, and you're listening to the Critical Hour on Radio Sputnik. I'm Wilmer Leon. Haiti Liberté has a piece entitled American Plan 2.0. The Global Fragility Act is rolling out. For insight into this, let's turn to my next guest. He's a journalist, editor at Haiti Liberté, and he's the author of this piece, Kim Ives. Kim, as always, welcome back.
Thanks, Wilmer. Good to be back with you.
So in the late 80s, and this is in your piece, after the fall of Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier in 1986, Washington began to seriously implement its neoliberal structural adjustment of Haiti. Structural adjustment policies are just an economist's euphemism for crushing austerity cuts, laying off of thousands of state workers, selling off and closing state enterprises, drastically cut fares, and cutting social programs. Kim, talk about the devastation that USAID brought to Haiti in 1987. Again, there was an austerity budget passed, public spending cuts, reduced tariffs, and eliminated import quotas, allowing a flow of cheap goods. I mean, this has been a very, very long, drawn-out plan, the destabilization of Haiti. Kim Ives.
Right. It's a part of the whole approach. You know, capitalism in that period of the late 70s, for those of us who are of that age, can remember that we had a thing called stagflation, what we're starting to have now again, which, you know, was the beginnings of a great depression that was really due to hit again at that time. But at the time, what the capitalists did, they got together and they looked at the planet and they saw, well, about a quarter of all industries are public. We should get those. We could have those privatized and use them. And in Haiti, that became part of the charge, was to nationalize these 9 state enterprises, throw all the workers there out of a job, as well as the state workers, et cetera. And they launched in the Caribbean, and it's always posed as they're giving help. It was called the Caribbean Basin Initiative, or CBI. It launched in 1984. And this, again, was under Reagan. And so they went to Haiti and they said, all these industries that you have, which were established as state industries and had functioned actually quite well as state industries, you know, they have to be privatized. You have to sell them. You know, you can't afford these anymore. And Duvalier was sort of in the way because, you know, he was skimming and getting some money out of them. So they basically gave the green light for him to be overthrown, which the people were too happy to do in 1986 on February 7th. And that's when the neoliberal restructuring of Haiti really, you know, got underway in a serious way. He was sort of blocking it a little before. They'd sent a guy called Marc Bazin, who was a World Bank economist, in to be his finance minister, and Duvalier fired him after a few months. But then they had the coup, and they thought they were going to install Bazin as president. And in any case, to make this story a little shorter than it could be, they started to just privatize, destroy all the state industries. They started to dump rice on the country, destroying rice farmers. It really began the gutting of the Haitian economy, and the result was the people rebelled, rose up. They did not elect Marc Bazin as president, which the U.S. thought would be a shoo-in. Instead, they elected the nationalist, anti-imperialist, liberation theologian priest named Jean-Bertrand Aristide, and that began a cycle of coups d'etats and then military interventions, which we're living through to this day.
In fact, you mentioned they dumped rice on the country, destroying rice farmers. That's very similar, I believe, to what the United States did to Mexico with corn through NAFTA.
Exactly. And it's the same process. And Bill Clinton did a very famous mea culpa in front of the Congress. And actually, to me, in the halls of the United Nations, it was shown on Democracy Now! Back in the day, where he said, oh, yeah, that was a big mistake. We shouldn't have done that. We thought we could have them leapfrog the agricultural stage and go straight to industrialization, a bunch of double talk. But the long and short of it was he, and this was in his own words, was basically helping out the Arkansas the farmers, quote unquote farmers, who have these combines which are a mile wide, and of course a Haitian peasant with a hoe, he can't compete with that kind of technological gap. And so the U.S. began dumping under the late Reagan, during the Bush one, and during Clinton. They began just dumping tons and tons of surplus rice on the country. And as Henry Kissinger said, food is not only a weapon, it's our greatest weapon. And indeed, with that food aid, so-called, between quotation marks, they were able to destroy Haitian rice production. The beautiful Artibonite Valley, which used to be emerald green with all the rice fields, is now mostly brown.
In fact, not to get too deep in the weeds, but in the book The Choice by the late Sam Yet, there's discussion about rice is one of the reasons why the United States went into Vietnam, was to prevent rice from that region flooding the market and impacting American rice farmers. But I'll just throw that out there.
Didn't even know that. That's a fun fact, as they say.
Okay. Yeah, the book, The Choice, phenomenal book. So you write in your piece now, nearly 4 decades later, neoliberal policies with their concomitant coups and invasions have devastated Haiti, leaving it chaotic, crime-ridden, and without an elected government. And guess who came to save Haiti from the damage it caused? Washington again. This time, the U.S. is using what might be called the American Plan 2.0. It is essentially a new alliance of USAID know-how with the muscle of the Pentagon. The new American plan is called the Global Fragility Act, or simply GFA. Kim Ives.
Yeah, this is what we have to get on the radar of the progressive anti-imperialist movement here in the U.S. The U.S. has concocted, with total bipartisan support, this bill, the Global Fragility Act, was passed under Trump in December 2019, and it essentially weds USAID, which is an arm, the humanitarian arm of the State Department, with the Pentagon. And what they do is they're going around to countries. Their first 5 countries are Haiti, Libya, Mozambique, Papua New Guinea, and then West Africa. I don't know why they call West Africa a country, but it's Cote d'Ivoire, Congo, Togo. Those countries in the West Africa are where they're seeing them as fragile states. These are states which are fragile to what? Revolution, basically, or even worse, being taken over by the Chinese juggernaut, which is coming at them with the Belt and Road. And I think Haiti is one country that they're really anxious not to lose, because it sits in the middle of the belt of islands across the Caribbean. Now, according to Biden, our front yard, Cuba, Haiti, and Dominican Republic sharing the island of Hispaniola, and Puerto Rico. And I think Haiti now has become the #1 pilot case for the Global Fragility Act. And essentially what happens is they come in bringing humanitarian aid, but also deployment of U.S. troops. So you are essentially going to have a U.S. military base in Haiti, supposedly to guard against the gangs. And that's why we see all the talk about gangs. Oh, these, gangs are running the country. It's a humanitarian catastrophe. So they've got to create this huge boogeyman. The Haitians cannot rule themselves, and they need foreign troops to maintain order. And so this is just the narrative that they keep hammering and hammering and hammering in the press. We at Haiti Liberté, as we've talked about on this show, have been pushing back, saying, no, the Haitian people are organizing themselves to resist criminality, which does result, for sure. But in fact, it's the gangs which are the most proactive in fighting the criminality that they're labeling as the number one gangs. So it's just a real struggle, not only ideologically to get people clear on what's going on in Haiti, but of course it's going to be a huge political struggle to make sure that this stealth intervention doesn't happen.
It's interesting to me, you mentioned the Global Fragility Act and that it was passed under Trump. And Joe Biden has, you know, he ran on the whole campaign idea, I'm the anti-Trump, I'm different than Trump. But we look at policy after policy after policy, and the Biden administration is doubling down on so many Trump policies. The Global Fragility Act, for one, the change of rapprochement with Cuba that the Obama administration had implemented. Donald Trump pushed back on that. Joe Biden is continuing that. The attempt to extradite Julian Assange, that came, Obama didn't want to do it. Trump came in, implemented that. Joe Biden doubling down on that. Juan Guaido in Venezuela. I mean, there are just so many policies that Joe Biden said, I'm not Donald Trump. But when you open the door and look in the room, I think Donald Trump is sitting there. Kim Ives.
The hypocrisy of the Biden administration is just infuriating, and in fact makes them so much worse than Trump, because Trump, I think in the case of this Global Fragility Act, this was really a project of the deep state, you know, which has, since even before Trump, seen that China was going to be the next big strategic enemy that we had to fight and conquer. And so they've been putting this thing together for some time, and Trump basically signed off on it, or the people that he had in the positions of power at the time basically led him into it. So I'm not sure that he was that much of a promoter of it, even though he did speak well about it. But it's really the Biden sector, the deep state, the deep multinational corporation axis, which is now working to diffuse and destroy Trump, with their mockery of legal procedures against him. So we really see the GFA is going to become, as the U.S. tries to shore up its neo-colonies throughout Latin America, Africa, and Asia, we're going to see this is going to really start to come into the popular discourse in a big way. But Haiti has, as usual, been the laboratory where they're testing it, or beta testing it. And the Haitian people, I'm happy to report, are resisting in their traditional way.
Kim Ives, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate that piece and your analysis. We look forward to having you back.
Thank you very much, Wilmer.
Thank you. Folks, you're listening to The Critical Hour here on Radio Sputnik. I'm Wilmer Leon. There's more on the other side.